live on this live stream.
Okay. All right. Well, are we all ready to go? Okay. All right. All right. Welcome everybody. Mike Delger is out right now. He'll be back hopefully here before the meeting ends. So I will conduct this meeting. We'll call this meeting to order for the working meeting for the FLAP grant. Is there any public comment? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and proceed. Carl, I guess we'll just let you lead off.
Okay, yeah, Carl Yakowicz with Great West Engineering. So we conducted a kind of initial kickoff meeting for the county to consider a federal lands access program grant for the silos, on the silos roads. And there was some discussion at our last meeting. We were going to conduct this meeting that we're currently in to look at some actual costs and consider the proposal a bit more. And I guess just for everybody's background on the FLAP program, it stands for Federal Lands Access Program, and the grants are out right now, and those are due April 1st. And so the intent of that program is to improve transportation facilities owned or maintained by non-federal agencies, such as counties, for routes that access federal lands. And one item that we did talk about last time was the title or maintenance responsibility of the roadway or the route must be vested by the state, county, or local government. So I know that was one of the big takeaways from last time too. And so I was tasked with diving in, looking at some costs of what it would take to upgrade the north-south access roads for the Silos Recreation Area. So we're gonna, and I've got those cost estimates prepared, and they're in the FLAP or Federal Lands Access Program format because they require certain items to be factored in with those costs. So I can provide this handout and then just give a summary to folks too, just verbally. So for the north-south access roads, so broke it out into 3 different segments. Within on the north side, we've got a single segment, and then on the south side, 2 different segments. I guess in summary, the total cost would be $1.3 million for the north and south access roads. And so that results into a match of that project of, I think it's $178,000 would be the match, $177,000. The match requirement on the Federal Lands Access Program is 13.42%. So yeah, the match of $178,000 on a $1.3 million project is what's required for the north-south access roads. So these costs, like I mentioned, they're in the Federal Lands Access Program format. So that format, what it specifically requires is you to factor in a 30% contingency, engineering costs. There's a construction engineering fee as well, and a construction modification cost, and a scoping fee of $50,000. So there are quite a few other costs that kind of come into the total construction cost that get factored in, and basically this project would be administered by the federal lands folks too.
Okay.
Any questions or comments?
So I guess one of my questions kind of goes back to the beginning there, Carl. You said that the roads needed to be owned by the county?
Yeah, they either need to be owned or maintenance responsibility needs to be vested by the county.
So I take it the maintenance responsibility vested, is that our current agreement with the Bureau Is that how we're gonna follow that guidance there, or?
Yeah, I guess I'm not real familiar with exactly what that current agreement states
Yeah.
as far as maintenance responsibilities. I don't have a
Right.
great answer
Well,
for
see,
you.
that's just it. I don't know if we have a real maintenance responsibility for the road. And then, I guess, what's your interpretation of maintenance after this project is completed? Whose responsibility is that?
So yeah, the maintenance afterwards would have to be local government responsibility.
Okay.
So that's one of the requirements of the Federal Lands Access Program. Now, I do not know what that period, if it's in perpetuity, if it's 10 years, 20 years. I could ask the federal lands folks
Mm-hmm.
for an answer there, but in the past they wanted to see a MOU between the county and the federal agency designating who has maintenance responsibility.
Mm-hmm. All right. So is there somebody from the BOR that can answer that question? Is anybody there?
I do not know. We would have to check with federal lands on that.
I'm in the process of trying to look that up right now.
Okay.
So last time we also discussed this match, and so we're at $177,000 match. It was discussed whether or not the match could be part of a contribution from BOR on a future project, which would be using FLTP funds, which the FLTP funds are funds that the actual federal agency can use to upgrade facilities. So the BOR mentioned that they would be willing to consider that. So I asked the question to Western Federal Lands whether or not what type of commitment would be needed, and they indicated that we would need a letter of commitment from the BOR on that match designation.
Okay.
Their
Is
preference.
that a letter of commitment for the funds or to apply for the funds?
They indicated the firmer the commitment, the better the application would score. I mean, as far as the match, they do allow for alternative forms of match, whether it be cash or commitment with the FLTP program. But they said cash is their preferred option and would help with the better scored application.
Okay. So I guess maybe with that said, has anyone from the BOR given thought as to this match portion of this grant? How would we do that? Are you thinking that it's going to be some type of a combination between the county and the BOR, or is this something that BOR can do? Or are you expecting the county to have the match for this grant?
You know, we haven't really even discussed that or brought that forward yet, so I'm not sure. I know we did some assistance with the Goose Bay one, so
Right.
I would have to bring it forward to
Okay,
Powers that be, and see if it's in, if we can find money in the budget somewhere.
sure. And I think what maybe might differentiate this from the Goose Bay one is they're not allowing us any in-kind participation. Is that right, Carl?
Yeah, I guess they're discouraging in-kind match this go around.
Right.
So they're anticipating it to be a very competitive cycle year. They haven't asked for applications for 5 years now. They mentioned that non-cash match is at the sole discretion of the approval would be at the sole discretion of the programming committee, and hard match cash is preferred.
Okay.
So yeah, a little bit of a stronger emphasis this cycle on cash.
Okay. So I guess one of the questions is if the decision was to proceed with this application and we couldn't come to an agreement or maybe not even agreement, so say it wasn't in our budgets to fund a match, can it be withdrawn or does anybody know that?
Yeah, as reading through the application guidelines, it does require a signature from the county and a signature from it would require a signature also from BOR, and so that signature commits the matching funds, but I guess it's not really finalized until you actually have a contract between Western Federal Lands and the county, which would be down the road after you were selected.
Okay.
So I don't know if I want to call it a soft commitment when the application is
Right.
submitted. I mean, there's always a possibility, I guess, of withdrawing if something changes financially for the county.
Right. And I guess also I understand that this cycle is it going to be a 5-year cycle?
That is what we understand right now, possibly a 4 or 5 year
Okay.
cycle.
Yeah. That makes it kind of tough when you don't have anything that you can commit. You know what I'm saying, as far as to filling out this application and not knowing whether you're going to have funding to make the match. I guess I'm not quite sure where I'm at on that. And then realizing that you may not get an opportunity to provide or to make this application for another 5 years. I mean, I don't know. Got any input, Josh?
It's the same boat. You're not going to get a better like-in-kind match deal, but at the same point in time, it's a lot of ifs on the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely makes the decision to proceed a lot more difficult. We used our Barcel funding for a like-in-kind match on the Goose Bay project, but that's been 5 years ago since it was put in. It's difficult for any county entity to say, yeah, reasonably in 5 years we'll have X amount of freed up money to allocate for a match, especially when they don't allow you to do like-in-kind labor.
Yeah. Also, Carl, didn't you say that you'd estimated to be about $5,000 to process this application?
Yeah, that's correct. Just to prepare the application, it's about a $5,000 effort.
Okay. All right, good. Is that something that the BOR could help us with on that cost?
Again, these are just things that we probably should have discussed a while ago. I'd have to ask again.
Sure. I understand that, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is Al. I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay. Go ahead, Al.
There?
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. So, the county, it sounds like the county has to sign this thing committing to having $177,000 in match money by the time we go to contract. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think you have to pay any of that until you get, whether or not you're selected, and then there's time period like Goose Bay, they ask for the money later on.
Yeah. So it's not a today, and it's not until after you're selected.
Right.
Okay. So a couple things. If the county is selected, then, or if the project is selected, I'll put it that way, then there's the FLTP grants that the BOR would have to apply for. Are those an annual application, or are those a once in a half a decade deal too?
Those are annually.
Okay, so we would have maybe 2 or 3 shots at that before we were at a contract phase.
Presumably.
Okay, and that's assuming that we can convince the BOR to apply, for them, correct?
Right.
And I don't know what that application requires. I know if it's letters of support, certainly our citizens group would be actively orchestrating those. The other is there are, and I don't know which ones, I haven't spent any time researching, but I suspect there might be some other grant opportunities out there that could help with some of the match. They may not be big chunks, they may be small chunks, but you might get some of the user groups involved, things like that, that would help reduce the amount that the county's looking at. I don't know about the Canyon Ferry Trust. I've been trying to read their stuff, and I'm not optimistic that they're very interested. But
Isn't that the trust though? Doesn't it talk about putting money back into some of those areas?
it talks about enhancing the recreational facilities and those kind of things. And you guys have probably dealt with them more than I certainly have. And if you got some ideas there, I think that would be something that could be approached, and certainly the sooner the better. About, I mean, they got the capacity, frankly, to just make that match.
Right. How about the other trust?
Well, I'm in a position I can't and won't speak for the other trust. I'll let the commissioners talk about that.
Okay.
So there are some avenues, and we would have time. It seems like if the project was selected, then it's high gear to finish getting that pulled together, and to try and get that match down to a minimum from the county, in whatever aspect that comes from. The other is that I think it's FLTP being the Bureau's avenue to get money. I mean, this is going to build a road that's going to be on Bureau land and become Bureau possession. So from my perspective, I think it's prudent that the BOR look at applying for those FLTP funds. That's just my personal input. The second is some match or some in-kind. There is in the neighborhood of 100,000 yards of material sitting in a pile down here. It could easily be used and should be used. In fact, will have to be moved in order to put that road in the right place going north. And so it would seem like maybe that's could be counted as some kind of a match in there, whether it be from the Bureau or the county, since there's been discussion that, well, if the county can use it, use it. So here might be a chance for the county to use it as part of the input to building the road. So I'll just, I'll leave those with you guys and be quiet.
Daryl and Debbie, one of my only concerns is the maintenance aspect of it. With the contract coming up due for renegotiation or extension, or the county not having any involvement going forward from the sounds of it, and we still don't have an answer on how long the county would be required to maintain that roadway if we're not under contract and don't have a vested interest in it. At that point, it would almost have to become a county road on BOR, or there'd have to be a separate MOU for the county to maintain that.
Right.
Yeah, generally in the past on FLAP applications, they're for projects that are county-owned roads.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one's definitely a little unusual with the access roads being on BOR property. Would the BOR be amenable just to including upgrading of those roads in FLTP funding? And because when you do have flat funding and FLTP funding, Western Federal Land still wants it to be a single project and all tied together and led at the same time, so it becomes a single project.
Right.
I understand the FLAP may allow the funds to be stretched, or I guess I just don't understand how much might be available in the FLTP system. And Morgan, I don't know if you have any insight in that.
Yes. So typically Reclamation has about 7.5 million per year in FLTP funding to award. And it can be pretty competitive. I think they get a lot of applications and projects submitted for it. But I've seen projects awarded as small as 2,000 and as high as 2 million. So they select a pretty wide range of projects out of that 7.5 million.
What is the competition like for that 7.5 million?
It's pretty competitive. I don't know exactly how many applications they receive versus select, but in my personal experience for ones that I've submitted, probably half of them have been selected and half of them have not. That gives kind of an idea.
It really depends on how many are here, how many are put in, So, well, yeah, we definitely put in. That's not a question. Are you saying that we should put in for the FLTP for the whole project? Is that what you're just talking about now?
Yeah, I guess that was a question. Yep. That was just a comment that I had, was whether or not it made sense for it to stay as a full FLTP project, since the county does not own the north-south access roads under deed.
And that's been one of the questions we've had as well. Is could FLAP even be used down there? But it sounds like it could. They obviously have a lot more money, and it seems like on that side it might be a little easier to get there. I don't know, Morgan, maybe chime in, but I'm not sure if it seems like FLAP is a little bit easier, a little more money.
Yes, yes, it's definitely eligible for that FLAP funding. I think the key here is having that match lined out ahead of time to make the application more favorable for FLAP funding. If this one gets put in there and there's a lot of other projects that have been proposed that have a solid match funding, they'll probably rate more favorably. But yes, generally FLAP, there is more money to go around.
I mean, not knowing if we, could get the FLTP right now. I mean, we could definitely put in for it, over the next few years and try. Would the commissioners be amenable to using or okay with putting it in, but putting it down as, they do have the match, and at the very outside use the Broadwater County Trust money. I just throwing an idea out there. I'm not, I think we could sure try to get it from somewhere else and there is other fundings out there. So that's my thought. I just kind of caught here with, not really planned out to, that much. I mean, it's out there a ways, so we can definitely start talking to people and trying to get some of the funding for it. And there's other places, other people we can talk to too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Dan, I think that's certainly a good thought right there. But that's something we would have to talk to the trust board about and see if they'd be willing to participate in something like that. What do you think, Debbie?
Having worked with the trust board for many years, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They've put a lot of money down there.
They have.
Over the many, many years, and there's so much talk in this town of other projects.
Mm-hmm.
Al knows better than I, being a board member, but I'm 50-50, I don't know. I wish I felt more secure about the timing of this.
Yeah, and I
It's just
think you're exactly right. I think our timing's off just a little bit, and we really haven't had an opportunity to talk with some other folks and get a firm commitment as to their willingness to participate and provide match funding for the grant. I mean, that's my apprehension right now.
And another one of my apprehensions is the cost to put the grant together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like that would need to come from the county,
Well,
or maybe a partnership with BOR, I don't know.
I don't know. We haven't had that discussion, I guess. But
To me, a big one still is the maintenance. I mean, not knowing whether
Sure.
the county's gonna be on the hook to maintain this infrastructure project after the contract is up,
right.
and for how long the county would be, is it an indefinite maintenance? So at that point, and even though it's on BOR property and it's a BOR road, it's in all essence a county road to maintain. It gets a lot of traffic down there. This is not one of those you grade once or twice a year if you're gonna spend $1.3 million to build a new road. It would take quite a bit more maintenance and upgrade costs through the years.
The other thing I see with that, Josh, is, there's going to be commissions long after us that are going to have to deal with this maintenance decision that we would have to make or commit the county to.
Exactly.
And we don't know what that future is. You may or may not have that agreement with the BOR 10 years down the road. I just don't know. And I think to make a commitment for a future commission is kind of tough to do.
Well, especially if you don't even know a timeline for maintenance. Is it in perpetuity forever, or is it a 10-year commitment? It would be much easier to make that decision, I would imagine, as a commissioner, if you knew that, okay, for 5 years or 10 years, the county will own this maintenance project. Or am I making this decision indefinitely for Broadwater County going forward because we received flat funding? I mean, without knowing that to me it would seem like one of the large questions I'd want to know before I made a decision.
Right. Well, to your point, I think the decision would be a little easier to make if it was a county road, similar to the Goose Bay project. I mean, that is a county road, so we know we're going to be maintaining
Absolutely.
that. In this particular instance, it's not. This is not a county road. So.
I'm not against the project. I would just like to know the boundaries that we have to work in within this.
Yep.
Because it is a very highly trafficked campground as is, and if you extend it out, and as the Silos master plan goes on farther, it's obviously going to receive more and more use. And as it does, it'll require more and more maintenance and improvements and upgrades through the year. I do believe Al's right. I mean, there's a large a large pile of gravel there that could be crushed to be able to use as road base to do a lot of the work. And it is a shame that that's not, or that would, it'd be frowned upon to use in like and kind, since the material is already sitting there in a pile, will have to be moved to do a lot of this scope of work.
Yeah. You know, I think maybe some of the other funding that we've not really talked about is, now that we have completed the Silos master plan, and as we go forward searching for grant funding to complete this project, that's another way to possibly get this work done. You know, using other sources, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to go, I guess, with that.
I think Al hit that. You know, you said you can go after smaller grants to help pay for the in-kind, or to use other grant funding potentially to cover the project.
Okay.
Josh, I would agree with you. For the county to take on another road maintenance on a road that's not county property, for the taxpayers, I think that's a tough call.
If it was a defined, like I said, if it was a
Yeah,
defined
I
scope, you're
agree.
going to do it for 10 years. This is the project duration. This is what the county's buy-in is at that point. And if we're going to be paying for the maintenance on this road to include improvements, gravel added to it, that should go along. I know there's not like in kind, but if the county, that's a significant contribution by the county right there to be able to put the time, the equipment wear and tear to maintain a road. And it would be just nice to know what the bound, or what the stipulation is before.
Okay.
So Carl, your cost estimates, was that for a paved road, like the plan calls for?
No, that was for a 26-foot wide gravel road with dust abatement on it.
That was Al.
Yeah, an asphalt pave system would be more costly, and maintenance down the road may end up being more costly too.
And I believe the Silos master plan, I know it's just a plan, but the idea was a paved road.
But
But when we looked at that, the paved road in phase one was the east-west trunk road. I think we decided not any of the work inside the BOR.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
That's not true. The east-west road was never included in any of the cost estimates for that or the rent. So it identified the north-south road in the plan as a paved road. And I believe the cost estimate has it that way. May be wrong, but says it estimated paved road length, 9,530 feet.
I don't think the master plan had any of that road leading into there in their cost estimate at all.
No. Silos Road was never discussed or presented in the master plan.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess we saw in the some of the subsequent phases, it indicates internal access roads, 26-foot wide access gravel road. We did see under phase one, there is an asphalt line item as well, so it wasn't real clear, but yeah, appreciate the clarification.
Dan and Morgan, this is Debbie. For the FLTP grant, what's the time frame for that again? Is that due in May?
Yes, it typically opens for proposals around April or May, due in June, and then selections are typically made later in the summer, so maybe around August.
Okay.
Carl, I thought you were referencing around the 1st of April for it being due.
For the flap.
Yeah, 1st of April for the flap. Morgan was speaking about the FLTP funds.
Sorry.
So are we kind of back to the question of whether we put in for the flap or not, I guess is,
Yeah,
I think we
Kind of.
are.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we are.
I mean, we could put in, I guess, you know, there's a cost there to put it in, no guarantee you're gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you guys. But, and we can try to get some, you know, other funding. We can put in for the FLTP. I think Morgan, we could probably put in for that. I don't know how much we could put in for there, but we could, can you do that in phases too, Morgan? Could we do a couple of phases on that?
Yes, yes, you can. You can do proposal all at once or propose a phased approach for several years of funding. You can do it kind of either way.
Okay.
But I guess that'd be my recommendation for right now. What do you guys think? FLPP?
To go ahead and put in for the flap?
I think that's something
Oh.
that the Bureau would make the application for. Is that correct? Is that how I understand that?
We would do the FLTP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do we need to decide today if we're gonna put in for the flap?
Well, yeah, and the thing is we can't make a decision in this meeting. This is only
Right.
simply a working meeting, so
Right.
if we did decide to do with the flap FLAP, we would have to do that in a different meeting, because there's funding committed to
Yeah.
that decision. So, today we could just let the BOR go ahead and run with it in the FLPP program and see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm happy to follow up with Western Federal Lands on maintenance responsibility, how long you
Sure.
have to commit to. Another county we're working with, they committed to a 20-year period. So I would call it a long-term commitment,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll try to nail down Western Federal Lands.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And the Bureau is gonna put in for the match money, or are you gonna put in for the whole project?
be under my
Kind
understanding,
of sounds like,
yeah, that they,
kind of sounds like you want us to put in for the whole thing.
yes, I believe that's what we
Yeah.
would, that's what we would like, Dan.
Yeah.
And then,
No guarantee, but, or we might do it, we'll look at it and see, because it might be a little more palatable if we put in it in phases, or,
sure.
you know, maybe we get it gravel first, get a gravel road in there, and then we,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the idea that we pave it later, or just certain portions of it we do, maybe we just do the from the midway south or midway north, and then the next year is midway south, you know. Morgan, I think me and you could try talking, Chuck and Dan could talk about that and see where we want to go with that.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Well, I guess I think that's what we agreed to as well here on this end. Is that right, you guys?
I agree.
Yep. So thank you, Dan and Morgan, for doing that. I guess if we can help you in any way, let us know.
Will do.
This is Dan Gallagher. Could you provide your write-up of your cost estimates?
Yeah, I'm happy to send that over.
That would be very useful in trying to write this up.
Perfect.
That'd be great, guys.
If you guys need input from the citizens group, we'll be glad to work with you on it.
Thank you, Al. All right. Anything else? As long as we're all together. No?
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Thank you for participating, everybody. Have a great day.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep. All right. So, anything else from you guys? No? All right. So we're adjourned at, 1:47? Perfect. Thanks, Carl, for coming down.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a man on the road here this past couple of weeks.
Right.
He's over in eastern Montana and
Yeah.
here and Butte and